too late, way too late, born too late to be a punk. Born too late, way too late, born too late for that outro, that outro.
Hello and welcome to the Born Too Late podcast. This is Josh Rutledge. I'm here with my friend Jay Castro. And tonight we're going to talk about something special. This is the hard to believe the 25th anniversary of one of the best record labels in existence, that being the mighty Alien Snatch Records out of Germany. And so we're going to do an Alien Snatch special. We're going to be listing our top 10 favorite releases from Alien Snatch, which has been a very influential record label for me. And I think of Alien Snatch, it's like an old school label because this came out, in the late 90s, back before there was streaming and social media and all that nonsense. And this was just a good old fashioned, we're going to make records and we're going to promote records and we're going to get reviewed in fanzines and we're going to spread the word the old fashioned way. And has put out so much good punk rock stuff and garage punk and power pop, and has really stayed consistently good over a long period of time, and has kind of had the same feel but has consistently grown too, and it's probably putting out stuff like the last few years it's very different from what was coming out on Alien Snatch 20 years ago. So, Jay, do you remember when you got into Alien Snatch?
I don't remember the first record I got that was on Alien Snatch. I don't want to say something and then have it be wrong because I haven't memorized their catalog, but it was fairly early on. I want to say maybe around our Audio Ammunition days, like maybe early 2000s. The label would send us stuff to review, and it was killer. Everything you said before, I completely agree with. Alien Snatch is easily one of the best independent labels out there in my book. And I love that they have endured 25 years. It's a long time for an independent label.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And like you said, they keep finding consistently killer records to put out. And they don't have like a house sound, I'm looking at some of my picks here and they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
The only thing that's the same is that they're all great.
Yeah. Yeah, because there was a time and Daniel was putting out a lot of garage punk stuff, which makes sense, but it was never just garage punk. It was always all kinds of different things, and doing a little research on this episode and trying to figure out, what my 10 favorite were, just so many great records got left out. So it's not okay, he's put out 10 killer records and then a bunch of so-so stuff. He's put out a lot of amazing stuff and has really continued to put out absolutely fantastic music, even in just the last 4 or 5 years. It's hard to have a record label for 25 years, it's hard to keep the record label being great for 25 years. And so that's I think what's amazing is he's never really stopped putting out this quality of music.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. It's pretty mind blowing. Um, I yeah, I want to say maybe the baseball Furies was one of the first things I heard on Alien Snatch. Stuff like that. Like you said, early days were a lot of garage. But yeah, I believe that may have been one of the first records I heard.
And the Alien Snatch website is like still a thing. There's not that many like old school like record label websites like there used to be in the early 2000s. Everyone's just doing social media now, or you have a very professional looking website. But if you've ever seen the Alien Snatch website, it really looks like it hasn't really changed in its general outlook, the way it looks since the beginning. It's just kind of cool. And Daniel writes like the most interesting. I guess you can call them press releases or one sheets or whatever you want to do, or descriptions. Like he's a very has a very animated style, and he's just really passionate about music. And it's pretty cool that you could stay that passionate about music for so long. To start something like that when you're like relatively young and still be like a middle-aged man and still so devoted to putting out all this great music. And it's hard to put out albums. Like that costs a lot of money to press LPs. And yet Alien Snatch is still putting out so many great LPs. It's like very kindred spirits. We talked about No Front Teeth, and they're definitely on the same level, I would say.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison. Yeah, I mean, and if Daniel goes through as much as Marco does for his label, then I salute you both because in one of our episodes, Marco's telling us all the things that he does for his label on a daily basis, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could keep up with all that for as long. And I just want to say this real quick. These bands that we are going to talk about tonight, Alien Snatch, like Josh mentioned, Alien Snatch does have a website, but they also have a band camp.
Mm-hmm.
And please, if you check them out, we highly recommend you go and buy these records from Alien Snatch and support the label, support the bands, because they very much deserve it. It's because of the consumer that these labels and these bands are able to hang on. So I encourage you guys to do that.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. The website is just aliensnatch.de. And this website has been around for literally 25 years. And it looks exactly the same as it always did. It's one of those things like so much changes in the world. It's nice to know that some things don't change.
Right. It's comforting.
You can still have the classic looking Alien Snatch website, but the Bandcamp is great too. Now, they don't have all their releases on the Bandcamp, but they have majority of them. So if for some reason you're out there and you've never bought anything from Alien Snatch and this is your first exposure, just go to the Bandcamp and start listening. And I apologize for all the money that I'm going to be making you spend, because you're going to want to own some of this stuff.
For sure.
So yeah, we're going to do top 10, each of us, of Alien Snatch releases. So let's have Jay get us started.
Okay, so as usual, it's so hard for me to rank these things. So I grabbed 10 that I listen to the most, and in no my list is in no particular order. Is yours?
Mine is top 10, so yeah, I ordered mine.
Okay. Okay. So I just got 10. Well, you know what? Okay, yeah, no, I'm sitting there like I can rank them real quick, but yeah, I don't think I can. So I'm going to start things off with one of my favorite bands, period, and they happen to be on Alien Snatch, and that's the Hex Dispensers.
Oh yeah.
And the LP, they have 3 LPs on there and 1 or 2 7 inches, but the LP that I particularly like is their second one called Winchester Mystery House. And it's, I like to think of them as like Rod Serling meets the Ramones. I got a chance to talk to Alex, the front man of Hex Dispensers. Finally, he was everything I had hoped he would be. We got to talk, or I got to talk to him on the when we were doing the show on WFMU, which is still up. If you want to go look, go on the WFMU archives and go on and search "Born Too Late," and you can still listen to the great conversation I had with Alex Cuervo and what he's doing now and his bookstore that he's got in Texas, and it was just a great conversation. But yeah, Hex Spencer's been my favorites for a long time. I just, combines two of my favorite things like horror and punk rock, you know, and he does it. He does such a lyrically, musically. It's just, it's just such a melodic punk rock and roll with some scrappiness and some buzz thrown in there, but it's killer, man. Love the Hex Dispensers.
So that album is from 2009,
2009, yeah.
and I love a band that makes me break my own rules, because usually I say, "Oh, I don't like anything. I don't like horror punk. I hate that shit." And then if I hear the Hex Protesters, like, yeah, this is awesome. Like if all horror punk was like this, I would be so into it.
Because it's so smart. It's
Yeah.
so.
Right. It's not just it's not meant to be like cartoonish necessarily, or
Right.
just randomly violent. Yeah, it's very, very thoughtful. True. Like to me, I love Edgar Allan Poe. Like that's my idea of horror. I'm way more Edgar Allan Poe than I would be slasher movie. And so like you have a little bit of the
Yeah.
spirit of Edgar Allan Poe in the Hex Dispensers, if you
Oh, for
combine that with
sure.
the Ramones.
That's a very good comparison. Yeah, it's excellent.
So my number 10 is an album I know that you favorably reviewed at one point, a number of years back. And this is a band that I just could never quite understand why they just didn't become like massive, like the biggest band in our scene, or one of the biggest bands in our scene. I think maybe it's because they haven't done anything in a number of years, but it's a TV Crime out of Nottingham in the UK, and the album was called Metal Town, released in 2019. And I was listening to it again today when we were working on this list, and I'm like, man, this was good, because it's kind of that old school UK punk, but leaning more pub rock, but with like a almost a arena rock production and power. Like if Thin Lizzy were playing Eddie and the Hot Rods songs or something. I'm just listening to this record again. Like so many songs were like, sound like they should have been like big hits. And I remember there was like a lot of hype for that band because they had a couple of really great singles on the album. I just think the album was just absolutely excellent. And that was what now 5 years ago. And I don't know. I haven't heard from TV Crime since then, but that is a great record and uh, absolute must buy for anyone who likes any of the stuff that Alien Snatch puts out.
Yeah, in fact, Metal Town is on my list as well.
I figured.
Yeah, the way I was listening to it in preparing for this episode again, and so great. This band should have been huge. The way I kind of described it in my head is like adrenalized pub rock,
Yeah.
like Eddie and the Hot Rods with like early Clash energy. And it's killer. It's a killer record. Yeah, these guys are from Nottingham, and the couple, so 2 7-inches, and then this LP.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all we've heard from TV Crime.
Yeah, and that's a shame, man, because this record is killer, top notch. Well, okay, so that was another one of mine. Another one that I really liked. I remember reviewing this for my old blog, is a band called Impo and the Tents.
Oh yeah.
And the LP is Peak After a Poke. Came out in 2014. And it's just so fun and catchy and bouncy, like punk rock. Like, I know they've been kind of described as like having like a Dickies kind of vibe to them. And they've got a little bit of garage in there, a little bit of, Ramones, but, you swirl that all together and you just get a killer record. And yeah, that's one of my picks. I believe they're from Berlin, if I'm not mistaken.
So that's excellent choice there. They were on my honorable mention list. I considered Impo and the Tents. I believe they're actually from Sweden. I think.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
Oh, my mistake.
And yeah, fantastic band. And it's just a great example of the kind of stuff that Alien Snatch would put out, where you're kind of like, very Dickies in that sort of classic pop punk, but almost leaning more power pop, but with a garage edge. Like, basically all the things that make music good.
Yeah.
So in my number 9 position, I've got from the UK, a band called The Real Losers. The album was called Music for Funsters, which came out in 2005. And this really makes me think about how Alien Snatch was kind of like one of the leaders of that next generation of keeping garage punk like going strong. We think about, Rip-Off Records was still around in 2005, but you kind of think of like the heyday of Rip-Off Records was late 90s, and then you get into the 2000s, and Alien Snatch really started to like bring the heat with a lot of that stuff. And Real Losers were amazing because they were, very, very filthy and trashy. Something that could have come out on Rip-Off Records, but also very Stooges influenced, very, very, raw and loud and noisy garage punk, but just a fantastic record that I think really, really holds up well. And I know Total Punk just put out a album of their old songs called Good Clean Fun. So we're getting Real Losers music out there again. And this was well, definitely one of the top bands of that sort of early to mid 2000s garage punk thing.
So the real losers, I'm not very familiar with at all. Where were they from?
They were from the UK.
Oh, that's right. Okay, okay.
And so that new thing that's out on Total Punk, I guess it was going to be their second album, and then they ended up putting out some singles from those sessions. So now it's like the second album that never really happened, which would then make Music for Funsters their third album, I think. I don't know.
Oh man, it gets messy.
But yeah, check out the new album, Good Clean Fun. Go to Bandcamp and check out Music for Funsters. If you love the classic garage punk, which I know Jay and I are huge fans of, that's a band that needs to be on your radar. Like, you're gonna just flip out over this record.
Yeah, I probably should. I should be more familiar with them. No, I'm not. I can't. At least I can't remember if I am or not. I can't. I don't. You know, sometimes it's just this overload. You know, and I can't remember. But I'll have to see if I have any records of theirs. But I just, yeah. If not, I'll definitely acquaint myself with them. My next pick is by a band called Cocktails. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. That Alien Snatch is kind of doesn't stick to one house sound. You know, Josh just described the Real Losers, and Cocktails is they're just like the most like subdued 60s inspired like rock and roll with these just killer hooks and these inspired melodies. They describe themselves as pop music for nice people. But oh my gosh, this record is so great. It's called Diary. I don't know if I mentioned it. Hypochondriac is the name of the LP. I know that I think they have two on Alien Snatch, but I chose Hypochondriac. That's the one I'm more familiar with. Came out in 2017. But yeah, great band. I don't believe they're around anymore. They were from San Francisco. I was trying. I remember during the Audio Ammunition days trying to get a hold of them to do an interview, and it just never quite worked out. But yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with Cocktails, Josh, but I feel like you would really like this album. Like I said, it's just very like almost like when I say 60s, I mean like maybe like the Zombies.
Oh wow.
You know, just very like just real catchy, very like just chill, you know, rock and roll. And it's great. You know what? This might be my number one.
Wow. How about that? And it's just so cool because this record label is so all over the place that they can put out something like that new Street Panther album that is, you know, pure, like, you know, ferocious rock and roll, and then they can put out something that's just pure pop, and it all kind of fits in with the whole Alien Snatch aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of that, like, we're all over the place here. We're going to talk about my number 8 choice is by The Fevers. The album is Love Always Wins from 2004, I believe. And there's a lot of almost like an urban legend about this record, where some people think that none of the songs are actually originals, that either they're all covers or they're all obvious rip-offs of covers. of famous bubblegum songs from the '60s. But the Fevers were just so awesome. Uh, the way they somehow took that very, very specific, later '60s, early '70s bubblegum genre and sort of combined it with power pop. And Love Always Wins is just a monster of a record. Our pal Travis Raymond was in that band, and they had actually put out a 7-inch on Tina Lucchese's record label, Lipstick Records. I think that's the first time I heard them. And then they had a couple albums on Alien Snatch, but Love Always Wins is a classic. I almost feel bad that I don't have it ranked higher than 8. So maybe Jay is right. Maybe we shouldn't even be putting these in order. But I've done a disservice to the Fevers that I only have them at number 8. But if you love just great pop with like sort of over the top, classic AM radio bubblegum aesthetic, this one's worth tracking down. I don't think it's online anywhere. Like, I don't think it's streaming or on Bandcamp or anything. But if you can track down a CD or something, the band, the Fevers, Love Always Wins, check it out.
Awesome. I don't remember this release either. This one flew by me. I am not surprised that Travis was involved with this. When you described what it sounds like, and then you said Travis was in it, I'm like, that tracks. And I did not. That's really interesting that you said about the controversy. I'm going to ask him about that.
Yeah.
Next time he's on here, because it's just inevitable that Travis, it's just a matter of time before Travis comes back on our show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna write this down. I'm gonna ask him about this controversy.
Did you guys write those songs or not?
Fever Gate. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take notes of all this stuff because, yeah, I was looking at Alien Snatch. They put out quite a bit of records over the years, over 25 years, and I was pretty surprised how many I was not familiar with. So, but I'll definitely remember the Fevers, and what was the other one? It's the Real Losers.
Yeah, Real Losers.
Yeah. So for my next pick is, I'm almost certain that Josh has this on here. If not, it's definitely in his honorable mentions. Is the Phone Jerks?
Oh yeah,
self-titled LP from 2018. And this, you want to talk about rip-off records? These guys, man, garage punk done to perfection, cooked to perfection. Loud, fast, snotty, fun, irreverent, just killer, just so killer. And I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that the Phone Jerks started out as a Superchargers cover band.
I believe that actually might be true.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Because again, that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Supercharger being, I don't know. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands, and I can see the love. I can hear the love for them through this LP.
And just today, as we tape this, Alien Snatch released Real Rejects, which is Tyler's new band from Phone Jerks. So keeping it in the family. And so I actually haven't sat down and listened to the Real Rejects record yet, but I am 100% sure that it is going to absolutely be awesome. Now, for me, a really important band in my number 7 spot is maybe a band to me that is definitive of Alien Snatch Records for me. And that's the Kidnappers. Because I had been familiar with Alien Snatch for a couple of years. I'd liked a lot of their stuff, but when I first heard the Kidnappers, like that's when I just really started going crazy for this record label. And I'm gonna mention an album here that I think is very, very underrated. It's called "Will Protect You." Came out in 2010 because, of course, they had the album "Ransom Notes and Telephone Calls" from 2003 that I might mention later. And then, of course, they went to Ripoff Records and had that album "Neon Signs," where they kind of sort of changed their sound a little bit from where they'd been on "Ransom Notes and Telephone Calls." And so I think "Will Protect You" was kind of in that same lane they were in when they were on Ripoff, which was they really started to be more of a power pop band, but still with those roots in garage punk. So you kind of had the
Mhm.
best of both worlds there. And so "Will Protect You" really, really solid record, and I don't think it ever got the same level of attention that the previous two albums did. This was their last album that these guys did before they went on and were no longer called themselves the Kidnappers. Uh, but the title track "Will Protect You" is a great song. "Out in the City," "Milkshake," "Heartbeat," a lot of great power pop stuff, but with that punk edge, and then some just pure, nasty punk rock and roll songs like "Nothing's Gonna Change" and "Chicken Heads and Cigarettes." So if you've slept on "Will Protect You" for 14 years, check it out, the Kidnappers, and that is on the Alien Snatch Bandcamp if you want to listen to it there.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the Kidnappers are one of the like the unsung heroes of that era of garage punk. Yeah, like you said, just killer like garage punk with power pop hooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just blown away by these guys. Kidnappers are awesome. Um, for my next release, it is a guy that's been on our show a few times. Um, his band, Daniel. I'm talking about Daniel Kelly and his band Moral Panic. They have a couple of LPs on Alien Snatch, but the one that I like is their second LP. First for Alien Snatch, it's their second self-titled LP that came out in 2019. From Brooklyn, New York, and Daniel was in the Livids. He was in the Complaints. He was in Dead Ringers. So the dude's kind of been around, and all of those bands I dig a lot. And Moral Panic just do this 80s style, like punk rock, like just um, you know, no, full throttle type, like I almost want to say like Circle Jerks type stuff. But it's hard, it's fast, it's got a lot of attitude, a lot of snark. It's just great, man. I love Moral Panic. Come back on the show, Daniel.
Yeah, I think that's something like people our age might call that hardcore, and then people will be like, "That's not hardcore, man. Come on, that's punk rock." But yeah, if you loved like hardcore punk in the early '80s,
Yeah, like Danger House.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, even late '70s, like
yeah,
early Black Flag, sort of that the beginning of hardcore.
like Beach Boulevard,
Yeah, just
type
really,
stuff.
really like powerful music, uh, great intensity, but still, you know, kind of tuneful and well crafted. Yeah, that's a freaking great record. That was one of my honorable mentions. It's just sometimes mind blowing how many good records have come out on Alien
I
Snatch over
know.
such a long period of time. So in my number 6 spot, I have an album that again I think is just super underrated. It also came out on Dirt Nap Records. A lot of times Daniel would co-release albums with other labels or work with several other labels. But this band was called The Minds, and the album is Plastic Girls, released in 2003. And this, of course, had Joel Jett on vocals, who was in Jetpack and the Flip Tops, and now he's in Girl Drink Drunks, who are one of the best punk bands going on earth right now. And this was kind of cool because it was a little different, compared to the Flip Tops, which were kind of a sort of a classic early 2000s, late 90s garage punk band with the Minds. It was still definitely garage punk, but it had more of a new wave feel to it. That was a 70s punk influence, like the kind of thing you would expect to be on Dirt Nap Records. And for whatever reason, it didn't quite get the same level of attention as some of the other stuff coming out on Dirt Nap, but I think it was just as good as a lot of those bands, and well worth checking out. So, Plastic Girls by the Minds. Look for it.
I thought about putting that one on my list. That's an honorable mention. But I did not know the dude from the Flip Tops was in this band.
Yeah.
Wow, it's crazy. But I feel like Dirt Nap was put out a few bands that sounded kind of similar at the time.
Yeah.
I remember they kind of were going for that sound, and the Minds are, one of the better of that pack. But that's cool, man. I did not know that. I love the Flip Tops.
Oh yeah,
that's
crazy.
Amazing. That's crazy. I wish if I don't know, I guess I could read liner notes a little bit better, I suppose. But it's like if I just wish there was some kind of I guess, well, I don't know. I guess Discogs is the closest thing, but people that aren't in the know, sometimes you're like, oh, this guy was in this band and this band and this band. It's like, well, yeah, I don't know. People, if you're just listening to things on Bandcamp or whatever, and then, you miss some of this stuff. But in my case, it was just Alzheimer's, I guess. I don't know what it is. But anyway, yeah, the Minds are awesome. I almost did another not Bandcamp, another Alien Snatch Dirt Nap release that was in my honorable mentions. That Beat record.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, I almost did that one. That's in my honorable mentions. Anyway, my next pick is Out of Controller.
Yeah, good one.
The Sure Thing LP. It came out 20. It's like, I want to say it's like power pop inspired punk rock with, sprinkled with a little fuzz, a little, make it a little bit dirty, a little scrappy. But it's not. When I say pop punk, I feel like that doesn't do this band justice, in the fact that I feel like Out of Controller is more influenced by the Undertones as opposed to the Descendants.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like Rudy on energy drinks.
Yeah, that's the thing of Out of Control. They practically invented that whole genre where you're kind of splitting the difference between sort of scuzzy garage punk and power pop influenced punk rock, which by the time they had put a few albums out, there was lots of other bands that were kind of starting to sound like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's funny because we talk about the the Mines, and there was lots of bands on Dirt Nap that sounded like the Mines. And then I feel like a few years later, there was lots of bands that sounded like Out of Controller
Yeah.
on Dirt Nap. That whole garagey poppy punk thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a fantastic band. Yeah, they have a lot of longevity, and they're still putting out great stuff. So we're showing a lot of love to Atlantic Canada today.
Yeah.
The Out of Controller and the Phone Jerks. So now I'm getting to my top 5, and so we talked about this band already, but the Kidnappers, and so this album is Ransom Notes and Telephone Calls. Yeah, this is the album that really made me want to own everything that Alien Snatch ever released. And it was cool because it came out at a time, 2003, where garage punk may have peaked in popularity in the late 90s, but there was still a lot of great bands. And the twins that were in this group, they of course had been the high school rockers when they were teenagers. And the high school rockers were freaking awesome. A couple 7-inches, but they were like more like super lo-fi, like almost superchargerish. And then they came out with as the Kidnappers. It's like all grown up, and now with like a sort of a tougher, fuller sound. And so they were definitely paying homage to the rip-off style. They covered Low in the Chonies, and they definitely could hear a little bit of Teen Jenner, but also hints of sort of that like 1970s UK punk pop too, which kind of foreshadowed that they would transition more towards power pop style on their next couple of records. But just a total classic. It never gets old. The Kidnappers, Ransom Notes and Telephone Calls.
Yeah, killer band, killer LP. So my next pick it's kind of a newer one. Came out last year, and another example of Alien Snatch diversity in punk rock. And the band is Sex Mex.
Oh yeah.
And the 23 LP, again, like from Texas, like the Hex Dispensers. It's just like fuzzed out garage rock and roll, but this time with some keys, some keyboard, zaniness going in there, and it's just super fun. So would this be an example of egg punk?
I'm not sure if I would put them in the egg punk category.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So that's what I'm asking. Because I'm listening to him, like, oh, it kind of does, but just from Alex was real big on the chain punk and the egg punk, and he was like our go-to guy to kind of let us know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could see kind of how if somebody would just say no, that's egg punk, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, but I don't know. It's a little eggy, but I think it's just more of a cool rock and roll record. Like I said, it's got only difference with this is that it's got some keyboards in it.
Yeah. So again, that's another reminds me of like classic Dirt Nap records, and they're still the sound is still out there. There's still bands that write these great songs, and I would just say, all of you be careful Googling the band name.
Just whatever you do, don't hit the images tab.
Yeah. Put Bandcamp after your search. So getting down to my last 4, and so we have talked about this one already, but this was the self-titled album by Phone Jerks from 2018. Yeah, I love this record so much. And I think what made this exciting was it came out at a time where there just wasn't a whole lot of bands like this. You can go back to the late '90s or even 2004 or whenever, where there was, if you were doing a zine or something, you were probably getting several albums in the mail every month that were something like this. Sort of the lo-fi, trashy, raw, old school garage punk, rip-off style. But then we got into more recent years, and you just didn't hear a whole lot of bands like that. And it just seemed like the definition of garage punk had changed, and you would hear bands that were supposed to be garage punk that sounded like the Strokes, and I'm like, oh yeah, come on. So
Yeah.
the Phone Jerks to me were very, very refreshing, and they were very upfront about it. Like, you can listen to that album and just go through and say, okay, which classic garage punk song are they ripping off, or which riff are they stealing here? So it's like a fun game for you to play, to know that they loved all of that stuff that came out on Rip-Off Records in the '90s and even in the early 2000s. They were big fans of a lot of that, but also with kind of influences of like the Saints and the Pagans, and some of that more powerful '70s punk was in there. So yeah, I mean, they were definitely a rip-off record style band, but they had a little bit more going than just that, and it's a shame they broke up, but all of the former members are doing cool stuff now, so we still get lots of great music from these guys.
Yeah, I mean, what more can I say? I mean, Phone Jerks were killer, and it's funny, like and Greg Lowry or anybody that was in a Rip-Off Records band, even the Phone Jerks, the guy, as effortless as this sounds, it's still hard to get right.
Oh yeah,
Because like you said, around that time there was a lot of bands that's had that sound, and a lot of it was pretty crap. you know you had to get those riffs right, you had to get the attitude right, you had to get it's a lot of stuff that people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna pick it up, just play really loud fast, and just get these stupid lyrics and blah. But it's like there's a craft to it, whether people realize it or not. I can tell a difference. I can tell a difference with bands like the Phone Jerks. Were great, they're fun to listen to, and it just I don't know, they still remain as one of the tops for me of garage punk. But anyway, so my next pick is a band called Freak Jeans.
oh, so good.
And here's so the Freak Jeans, the LP is called Playtime. It came out in 2017, but it's really hard to kind of describe this band, because
Yeah.
they're just super playful, and they're kind of all over the place. Some of the songs sound like toy dolls mixed with wire, and then they kind of go through like they have some Billy Childish sounding songs, and it's crazy. It's great. And one thing it isn't is it's not boring, because you don't know what you're going to get from one song to the next, like literally. These guys, Charlie Murphy and Andrew Anderson, were they were in a band called the Red Chords, the Hip Shakes, Holiday Ghost, and Proto Idiot also, which were pretty cool. But yeah, Freak Jeans, I love this LP.
Yeah, that was an amazing band. And I just thought it was cool that you had, Charlie Murphy from the Red Chords, and you had, of course, Andrew Anderson is in a lot of great bands. But when they created Freak Genes, it was like, okay, we're going to take all of these like weird, crazy song ideas that would never fly in any of our other bands, and we're just going to start
Yeah.
recording these songs. And who cares? Because there's no expectation for what Freak Genes has to be.
Right.
We can just write any kind of songs we want. So yeah, it's like doesn't even necessarily even follow any genre. You can, okay, yeah, it's quirky and it's creative. You can, post-punkish, new wave-ish, but still poppy. Yeah, just a fantastic band. They've had a lot of great records, but I think that one is probably their absolute best. And there's just so many good albums on Alien Snatch. It's really blowing me away here.
I know.
So now in my number 3 spot, I have the first album from Alien Snatch. This is where it all started. I was a fan of this band. They were called the Johnnies out of Massachusetts, and they had originally been called Johnny Bravo, and then there was another band that wanted to be called Johnny Bravo, so they became the Johnnies, and they put out a CD called 12 Steps to Nowhere in 1997, and Daniel decided, I want to put this out on vinyl, and the next thing you know, Alien Snatch Records was born, and I just remember getting the album like, my God, how thick is this vinyl? It's amazing. The idea that he was going to just put out a slab of vinyl that was like a hockey puck, and it was just so cool. And that kind of became a trademark. When you got the Alien Snatch album, you knew that was going to be a big, thick hunk of beautiful vinyl. And the Johnnies were fantastic. They were almost hard to describe. It's like if the Undertones were in the same band with Johnny Thunders. They were very, very, very pop in a classic punk style, but also with like an American, 70s punk rock and roll feel. And so 12 Steps to Nowhere is a really great album. It's got some of their best songs like She's Been Around and She's Walking Out Again. You Don't Know Me. They covered Shithouse by the Dogmatics, and they were big Dogmatics fans and kind of did a lot to keep that band in people's attention. And now, of course, Dogmatics are back, and so my long love affair with Boston-based garage and punk music. I maybe even had started with the Johnnies, and so I thought it was great that that Daniel wanted to put out that record, and then he puts out one record, and next thing you know, he's putting out a couple more, and now he's been putting out albums for 25 years, and so I will always maintain that the Johnnies were one of the very, very best American punk bands of the late 90s.
Interesting. That's another band I'm not that familiar with. I need to go check out the Johnnies. I thought I remembered Johnny Bravo, but I don't.
Yeah, because their first couple 7-inches were as Johnny Bravo.
Okay.
So if you were, and those came out like in the mid 90s, so you may have had a couple of those records back in the day.
I think I did. I did. But yeah, no, I should check out the Johnnies. Yeah, it sounds really cool. So my next pick, we already talked about TV Crimes Metaltown. I think Josh and I already, summed up our love for this band and for our heartache that there's not any more TV crime music being put out in this world. It's a shame, if anybody knows, man, if anybody knows if these guys have done other things or if TV crime is gone and, if they're doing other stuff, drop us a line, what's our email? Born Too Late Pod at gmail.com.
At gmail.com, yes.
Yeah, let us know, because I'm very interested. I'm very curious to see what happened to this band, and it sucks. They made such an impact, and I remember, like Josh said, there's a lot of hype, man. All the bloggers were all in a big tizzy, both of us included,
Yeah,
over these
absolutely.
guys, and it just sucks. So yeah, the great TV crime.
Yeah, what a record. I mean, we're getting down to a couple of really, really important records in my uh, modern life. So, in my number 2 spot, I have a record that Alien Snatch put out in collaboration with like a couple of other labels. Like there was a lot of record labels involved in this, but the band is Speedways, and the album is called Radio Sounds, and of course that came out in the year that cannot be mentioned, 2020. And I will say that I think this might be the best of all the modern power pop albums of like the last 15 years. Uh, it's got a lot of really straight up quintessential 3-minute radio hit power pop songs. The Day I Call You Mine, Kisses Are History, Good Girls Don't Break Hearts. But it has a couple of like really amazing deep cuts. This is about a girl who loves the sun. And then In a World Without Love, It's Hard to Stay Young, which I might say is the best song that's been written in like the past 10 years. So Speedways have 3 great albums, but I think Radio Sounds is their best, and I'm just so stoked that Alien Snatch was a part of this. That they knew this was a great record, and Daniel wanted to be one of the labels that got that music out there. So, I mean, this is probably my favorite band currently, and to me, this is still their number 1 record.
Awesome. Yeah. Daniel saw it on the tree and just plucked it. Plucked it from the what do they call it, the ether.
Yes.
But yeah, the Speedways are awesome. Great band, great LP. It's funny, I didn't even remember that this was on Alien Snatch. Because it was on another label.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was on at least 3.
Oh, okay, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm like, for some reason I didn't associate it with Alien Snatch, but yeah, I mean, everything Josh said, I concur. Great band, great record. So my next pick, and I believe this is my last pick, is Slander Tongue. The LP is monochrome. It just came out last year, and if you aren't familiar with Slander Tongue, I mean the amount of like swagger that comes out of this record is astounding. I mean, these guys, I feel like their record, their sound fits right in between New York Dolls, The Real Kids, and Cheap Trick.
Wow.
It's just like hooks and strut galore. 70s, glitter, glam, rock and roll, with some power pop thrown in there. I mean, these guys are friggin', man. In my opinion, these guys, top notch. I love me some Slander Tongue. These guys were in that band Bikes, which were great. Modern Pets, which are another killer band. But yeah, man, I don't know. Did you Were you into some Slander Tongue?
I'm trying to even remember if I heard that record, because boy, it sure sounds like something I should be checking out if I haven't.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's killer.
I think sometimes,
It's a titan.
having a normal life and having a job and responsibilities and still trying to put out a blog, sometimes you miss stuff.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Oh,
Yeah.
I know, man. I know. That's why we're here for each other, Josh.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know?
We're we're debriefing 25 years of Alien Snatch Records. There's some things that some homework that we have to do. Now, this next record, which is my number one, I've pretty much gone on record that this is maybe my favorite album of recent times. And this is another album that was out on Alien Snatch, but it was released on a number of labels, and that is Pale Lips, After Dark. And I can't say enough good things about this band. They are no longer active, but they were amazing band out of Montreal. And After Dark was their second album, and our pal Teddy Spaghetti also released this album. So what can I say? Just a great rock and roll band, amazing songs. I think they kind of, when they first came out, got compared to a lot of like the girl group influenced punk bands. And yeah, I get that, but yeah, they had a lot of other things going on too. Like I always felt like they were just a great like classic punk band, but also a rock and roll band, like almost like a Teenage Head sort of vibe to the idea that it's rock and roll and it's punk and it's great tunes. And After Dark took their first album and then hit an even higher level. So many great songs: Cosmic Love, That Old Ghost Don't Lie, I'm a Witch, Hiding from the Moon, Hanky Panky Frankie. To me, this is just like perfect rock and roll. The kind of album that if you were like a kid and you heard it, it would make you want to go start your own band and be just like Pale Lips. And so, of course, obviously the former Pale Lips are doing cool stuff now with other bands. And we had Jamie on the program a while back, and she and Lynn, of course, have quite an amazing band now called Taxi Girls. And check out Taxi Girls. Buy everything that Pale Lips ever released.
Yeah, man. This is another LP that I forgot Alien Snatch had a hand in. And I saw that. I'm like, I'm not going to pick this because I know you will. So, because I mean, if I knew you might not, I definitely would have had this on my list. Like everything you said, man, super fun, super catchy, rock and roll. And man, I can't think of a clunker on this whole record.
No.
It's just it's all just super fun, a lot of hooks, it's just a lot of charisma, on these songs and on this record.
Amazing.
It's great. Yeah, love Pale Lips. I remember the first time I heard Pale Lips was on No Front Teeth. We talked about No Front Teeth earlier, but they had a 7-inch on No Front Teeth.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? And I remember I bought it and I listened. I'm like, this doesn't sound like No Front Teeth.
Yeah, it was a very different kind of record from No Front Teeth. But No Front Teeth is kind of like that too, where they'll put out something that's a little bit more on the poppier side.
But from that 7-inch
Yeah.
to this LP, there was a lot of growth.
Yeah, like there's tremendous growth between that first 7 inch where they were very raw, and then the first album you could tell that they really like hit another level. And I
Yeah.
think what Pale Lips don't get enough credit for is just how incredibly smart the songs are. Just incredible lyrics, very
Yep.
very intelligent and humorous, but also social commentary, and yeah, just a terrific band. And I'm glad that two members of that band are really killing it right now as taxi as two-thirds of Taxi Girls. And
Hmm.
we'll be talking more about Taxi Girls at some point because they've got new music coming out soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. I had an honorable mention. I had the Mojo Maddox out of Italy,
Hmm.
Songs for Faraway Lovers, uh, the Battle Beats, Boy, Our Pal, Adam, and the New Brutarians with Hysteria.
Yep.
The Locomotions, which of course featured Martin Savage, that garage punk superstar. And I mentioned the High School Rockers, the 7 inch. It was called I Love Anna Kournikova. And then a power pop band, the Number Ones, with their single called Sharon Shouldn't. And then, of course, Brain Traps, a really great lo fi garage punk band. They did Teenage Trash Volume 3. So those are my honorable mentions. And, of course, I mean, you just go and look at what's coming out. Like Dangerines. Like, that's a fantastic band on the Alien Snatch. They have a new release out. I mentioned Street Panther, uh,
Yep.
and just so much stuff from this record label. So you want to go to aliensnatch.bandcamp.com and just start listening. And there are a ton of releases on there, going pretty far back into the early days of the label, and many of the releases that we mentioned are there on Bandcamp for you to listen to for free. And if you really like it, go ahead and listen to the whole album and buy it. I think it's so cool that Daniel puts like all some of the old reviews on there on the Bandcamp, like he saved the actual text of the reviews. So for some of these, you actually see it. So like I'm looking at the review I wrote for The Real Losers.
I was gonna say you're in there quite a bit.
Yeah. So that is pretty freaking cool to go back and see some of the things that I wrote, when I was younger and crazier, but very, very passionate about music. So, yes, Alien Snatch Records, what an accomplishment to have been putting out great music like this for 25 years. So, go check out some of their releases.
Yeah, definitely. It's just I can't stress enough um, just how vital it is to support these people by any way possible. Spread the word. I know vinyl's expensive, and Alien Sanchez in Germany, shipping costs aren't cheap. So if you can't, monetarily support, spread the word, do what you can, because as cheesy as it sounds, but Alien Snatch is a treasure. These records that they put out make guys like Josh and I very happy, and it makes being stuck on this earth, it's a little more tolerable. Like Josh was saying, it's comforting to know that Alien Snatch is still out there, just cranking out killer punk rock, killer rock and roll. um Man, I'd hate to see the day when Alien Snatch shuts its doors.
Oh, that would be sad. Like, it will be, there's just nothing else like an Alien Snatch or a No Front Teeth. And so definitely support music. I mean, we're in a different era now. We're in an era of Spotify, and I'm not going to knock Spotify. Some of you are listening to this on Spotify right now. Bandcamp and downloading. I mean, that's just the way music is, and I do
Yeah.
listen to music that way these days. But there's just something still cool about to know that there's still record labels that focus on I'm going to release vinyl records, and I'm gonna put out the invest in this because I believe in the artists, and I think you have to do it for a long time to get good at it, and that's kind of what's happened with No Front Teeth and Alien Snatch. They've been doing so long that they know how to run a label, but it doesn't make it easy. And so any person who goes and buys a record, even just one record, you're making a difference. And yeah, the shipping sucks, but it's worth checking out. And Bandcamp is a great place because if you just want to buy the digital record, you can. But check out all these bands, and the new album by Real Rejects called Not Allowed is going to be, or is a 10-inch record. And so 10 inches are always cool, and I always like that Alien Snatch put out quite a few of those. So,
Yeah, the Phone Jerks.
yes. So, dig Alien Snatch Records. And we are very, very excited to have spent an hour of our time talking about this, more than an hour of our time talking about this record label. And you have to appreciate these labels that care enough to want to keep doing this. And we're going to have Teddy Spaghetti on in a few weeks. And these guys should not be taken for granted, because I wouldn't be out there spending all this money keeping a record label going. So the dedication is very much appreciated.
Yeah. Teddy. I mean, Ken from Dirt Nap. We mentioned Marco from No Front Teeth, Drunken Sailor.
Yeah.
All great labels. I mean, Jamie and Rita Records. Neon Josh and Neon Taste. Gosh, I'm just pulling stuff off the top of my head. Those are all labels I love. So yeah, it's important. Please help them be around.
Yes. So we're going to try to do a playlist for some of this stuff. If we don't know if all of this will actually be on Spotify, but we're going to do the best we can to do a wicked Alien Snatch Spotify playlist to go in conjunction with this program.
Yeah, in fact, that's something I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start doing a little bit, I guess, is compiling a playlist, an episode themed playlist. So for sure, look for an Alien Snatch, and just just search on Spotify, Born Too Late, Alien Snatch Records, or I don't know what I'm going to title it. I don't even know. I haven't even thought about it yet. Born Too Late, Alien Snatch Records episode, something like that, and yeah, it'll pop up. I'll make it
You'll
public.
find something.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, it's been fun chatting about Alien Snatch, and we hope all of you out there have enjoyed this program, and we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us and to have you include us in your day-to-day life and whatever you're doing while you listen to this. If you're taking a walk, if you're lounging on the porch with a beer, if you're cleaning the house, if you're shaving, just thank you for allowing us to come into your home and into your life. And if you like what you hear, please leave us a review or a rating wherever you are listening to this podcast, and we will be back soon with another episode of Born Too Late.
Thanks.